Greetings again to everybody. As we wrap up the semester, we are here to present the second episode of our podcast. This podcast will be focusing on a different story than the one we did in episode 1. So as you guys all know, I'm Linda Ntlangulela, the host of this podcast, and these are my podcast colleagues who I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Muletin Ngau.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ntlangulela, for welcoming us again from this broadcast. My name is Mjoli Simjob.
Splendid, gentlemen. So for this podcast, we will be focusing on Ken Temba's story titled Mob Passion. So as you guys all know, without even exploring the full details of the story, let's first analyze the title of the play or of the short story, Mob Passion. Like, what do you guys think when you hear the word mob passion?
The first thing that comes into mind when I think of mob passion is violence, disruption, and you know, that takes place in black societies, you know. And we without even diving deep into the story, we raise up a question of is it a normality for us to always be associated with disruptions and violence in black societies, or is it a stereotype imposed on us black people, this is how they handle matters, violently so?
You're absolutely correct, because like when I hear the word mob passion, like I think of South Africa's history. We are a country that has always been involved in so many violent situations. So when I hear the word mob passion, I can already feel like that someone is going to be killed in this short story.
The smell of
Don't
blood.
get me wrong, someone's going to get killed in this short story.
And that, to add up on that, it comes back on us as blacks, which means we must do a deep self-introspection on us. Whether we have been using the same strategic thing when we are protesting, it's from the communities or the South African institution, whereby the violence always get involved, and which has make us think much more deeper, whether this is the strategy that we must continue from our own generation to use, or it is still working for us. Because at the end of the day, we see people getting arrested, people getting killed, police being brutally shooting people, which has make whether we should change the strategy, or obviously it's definitely not working for us. And I think it's another thing that in future we must look at.
So thank you for highlighting that point. It's very interesting. So moving on, we will be focusing on the summary right now, and I'll be giving the platform to Mr. Miolisi to give us a brief summary of the short story. So over to you.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. It's such a privilege to take you from the short summary of this short story. And the Mob Passion is the dramatic short story which is written by the most influential and the best storyteller, as we familiar know, Mr. D. Ken Temba. And the setting of the story is taking place in Randfontein during the 1950s. This is the period of tribalism, colonialism, and apartheid in South Africa. And the short story consists of the two main characters, which is Linga, who is a Xhosa, and referred as Letebele, which is much more interesting thing, and who is having a love affair with Mapula, who is a Sotho, and also referred as Russian. And all those two terms raises a concern about how the society labeled or have been calling each other during the black community, which also create division. So Randfontein is such a difficult township and disadvantaged place to live in due to the high crime rate as a means of survival and other social issues enforced by apartheid laws. Therefore, due to these social expectations and construction among the societies, Linga's relationship with Mapula is totally unaccepted by the society because of his race, identity, and background. Moreover, such societal imbalances contributed a lot to the division and the hatred that blacks have among each other, which led to the death of Linga and being killed by the mob, which is the community, accusing him being using drugs. And Mapula immediately is murdering her own uncle after this incident, which is much more interesting about how strong their love was through for each other, more especially from this society that fully not accept their relationship. Thank you, Mr. Nhlama.
So thank you for your viewpoints, Mr. Mulis. I really loved how you highlighted the summary of this short story. And it's like quite an irony that you highlighted that someone was killed in the podcast, which is what I said when I explained how I felt about Mob Passion, the title of the short story, Mob Passion. So moving on, for this podcast, we will be focusing on 3 aspects. And those 3 aspects are the first one being race, gender, and marginality. The second one being power, identity, and control. And the third one being space and the rights to the city. So, gentlemen, without wasting any more time, let's talk about it. So, the first aspect we will be focusing on is race, gender, and marginality. So, with race and marginality, I think we can all agree that looking at South African history, that the most oppressed and marginalized group or race here in South Africa has been Black people.
Yeah, definitely.
So, by looking at that, we look at how apartheid used strategic planning such as divide and rule phase. Basically, this phase was to cause tribal division in Black local communities in a way that they used propaganda, false information to rival political parties in order to create divisions, such as informers, impi in Zulu. So, with that being said, relating that to the story, we can see these tribal divisions in a way that certain parts or certain cities or towns belong to a specific tribe, such as Nuclear belonging to the Russians, and not allowing people from different tribes to come into their own tribe because they will be viewed as Letebele. So I just want to hear from you guys of how do you feel of these aspects of race, gender, and marginality?
Analyzing this theme, I'd firstly like to agree with you on the strategic form that was used by the apartheid system, which was divide and conquer. So this was implemented so that it prevents blacks to unify and stand up for themselves against the white minority. So this is also highlighted in the story, whereby we see the reactions of the communities towards the relationship between Mapule and Linga. And also this relationship serves as a controversy because the ethnic identities were associated with loyalty and survival under the apartheid regime laws.
So I totally agree with what your viewpoints are saying. So let's just hear from Mr. Mulis on what he has to say regarding this theme of race, gender, and marginality.
From this perspective that we have been discussing, I just want to dive from a different perspective on aspect by mainly focusing from gender. So as we see that the apartheid laws, they were mostly using brutality to make this separation. So they have to come up with new strategic ways to create this division by spatial planning from the boardrooms back then. So the government began by attaching certain jobs and responsibilities according to the genders to create an instability and division between women and female who are living from those overpopulated townships. And for instance, by referencing from the story, they mentioned that females, they were taught that the greatest civilization that they can contribute from their homes and from their society, more special homes, is to by finishing the homes, making decors, all sorts of stuff, all those kind of regarded easy things to do. So this was the splattered planning that excluded them to participate politically and being involved in decision making that would be able to create balance within the community and families. So this thing evokes the tensions between the society and the genders that made it much more difficult for those two genders within the townships to collaborate and work together as they live within the township.
Yes.
And as a result, this thing created a major consequences whereby women started to develop much more hatred and anger between themselves.
Yes.
And this is witnessed from the story, whereby from the mob, they were the most women there, and they were the one that they were most leaking, which means they developed much more hate within themselves, and that the mob, it was their only way or platform to keep it up their anger and show up how much they are being affected by this division.
Yes, I'd like to thank you for this part you've just highlighted, and it really shows how all these tribal divisions started and how they were influenced by the apartheid laws. So without even wasting more time, we will be focusing on the second aspect, which focuses on power, identity, and control. So, gentlemen, let's talk about it. With power, identity, and control, I would like to first highlight the famous quote of with great power comes great responsibilities. So, after reading the whole short story, my conclusion came up to a point of where I feel like power in the story is represented in a way that is not justifiable and righteous. To me, it is just senseless violence, and it promotes that notion of black on black hate. Like, let's look at now in modern times, there's this issue that's happening right now in our country of Afrophobia and xenophobia. So, with that being said, let's relate that to the story. There's a particular scene in the later stages of the story where a woman in the mob shouts, "Mule! Mule, mule," and you look at how the mob reignites that passion of violence, and like these people are ready to attack with what this woman is just saying. So with that being said, you can see that this perspective is showing how the short story is displaying power in a way that is not righteous or justifiable. It is just senseless violence. So without even taking more time, I just want to hear from my podcast colleagues of how do they review the theme of power, identity, and control.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Nhlangulele. As we can see and witness from the story,
Yes.
those people, they were pushed away from the urban areas to the townships. So we cannot avoid the fact that people who live together, they don't hold equal power
Yes.
as they live among each other.
Yes.
And from the story, witness Uncle Alphonse, who have power and control over the mob during this protest, who is a fireband. So the uncle, instead of using this power much more positively from the situation, he uses that power to encourage them to take a violent decision as they end up murdering Linga, highlighting the danger and the consequences of giving power to a black man, which supports the notion that black men, they cannot lead. So this work on the behalf of the white minority and was their advantage, that blacks cannot lead without anger or towards or violating each other. So the power within the society was from the hands of dishonest leaders, such as Uncle Alphonse. So which took us the faith that black people had from their own land leadership and their own leaders within the society, making it difficult to trust their own leadership. This fueled a division and unanswered question within the society, whether black people, they are truly reliable to lead within the societies, which it comes to the situation of immigration that we are having now currently in the country, whereby we experience this crisis under the black leadership, and whites, they are accusedly so that they are the one behind this notion, as they are finding it to keep and promoting a black division among the Africans, as they are regarded as foreigners. And we cannot agree from those perspectives that these things, they are not happening. They are bad foreigners, for instance. But these things, it comes back questioning their leadership, how the black are using power to control and to establish their own rules.
Yes, I think you've highlighted everything very correctly, and you've also shown that there is a black on black hate that is happening. But let's not forget about identity at this point. But I think my colleague here, Moletsi, will give us a brief detail into the theme of identity.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Ntlangulela. We find that the theme of identity is also intertwined or linked with power and control, whereby the apartheid laws redirected the black people's anger internally, forcing them or causing a more black on black hostility and chaos around the townships and all of that. So we also associate the mob's anger with that. It's more of like a psychological effect from these oppressive apartheid laws that kept on oppressing Africans to pursue certain attributes and go into workplaces that that they can live well off.
Right.
Yeah.
To add up to that point, and as we experienced from the story, Lingan is referred as a Letebele while dating with Mapula, who is also a Russian. So these are societal formed identities that we experience to ensure that blacks, they regard themselves as a diverse people due to their identity and background. This perception discouraged the union and life within the black society. So they are taught a negative constructed perception, like Xhosa people being assaulted using drugs, which is making them to be pushed away from the society because they are labeled as a bad influence, as a people who are destroying the livelihood and the environment as a whole.
Yes, gentlemen, these viewpoints you've just said are just amazing, and obviously they are absolutely correct. But without wasting any more time, let's move to the final aspect, which is space and the rights to the city. So, gentlemen, let's talk about it.
Let's cook.
So, we are at the final aspect of our podcast, which focuses on space and the rights to the city.
Yes,
So, from this aspect or theme, in relating it to the story, space is portrayed as a way that apartheid pushed black people to the margins on the outskirts, in a way that black people in cities were not allowed to roam freely. So this also goes back to the days of the migrant labor system, where it states that black people who lived in cities were there for work. Like no black person, you won't see any black person living in the cities freely. It's either that person has come for work or has special permits to do something, and after that he has to leave and go back to the rural areas. So the rights to the city, the short story portrays it as a way that black people belonged into the margins. They did not belong into the city. Like when you look at the story, the first part of the story where Ken Temba describes how overcrowded black communities were. But I want to also hear from my podcast group members of how do they perceive this particular thing.
Justifying what you've just said now, the apartheid regime system of that time imposed laws such as the Group Areas Act, which forcefully put black people in overcrowded townships where they are associated with poverty, crime, and high levels of unemployment, considering the fact that there was also limited housing. So this mix of different tribes in confined spaces, increased the level of, competition for job occupations and resources, initially leading to more hostility and chaos in the black townships. Yes. So my take on this is that this was planned by the apartheid government so that they restrict, blacks from, occupying spaces in the cities where there's resources and jobs that could make them live well like other people with good occupationals.
To close up from this point of black people being excluded from the urban areas specifically, so I think there is a main purpose, and because the white government was much more strategic at planning, as they are using their spatial planning to make black people fight and create this division. So government, by restricting black people, has the main fundamental purpose, which was to oppress them and limit the opportunities from the growth, because they knew there is no growth there compared to the urban areas, or there was a slow growth. So this led to a crime. As is mentioned from the story, they have used the deft fingers exploring unwavering pockets.
Yes.
So the main notion from this thing was to link blacks with crime and not deserving to be those at urban areas.
Yes.
Because they are referred as criminals, people they are not unworthy to be there.
Yeah.
So this division was beyond just a tribalism. Instead, it was a trap that the whites use for blacks to have a battles among themselves, because they are much more excluded and poor and overcrowded from there to their corners.
Yes. I think we've highlighted every possible detail into the story by right now, and we have come to our end, and I feel like we've really engaged well in creating this podcast.
A few moments later.
So, gentlemen, unfortunately, we have reached the end of our podcast, and I just want to hear from you on what you have learned from reading this short story.
I think my take on reading this short story is that whatever that's going on in today's society, the things that we think are normal or, a culture to us, is actually psychological scars that, come from
the past.
Yes, from way beyond,
Yes, I also agree with what you're saying, because from reading this short story, for me, I'm still believing in the notion that there's still a black on black hate. If
Obviously.
you look at the circumstances that are happening right now in the country. So that is my thing that I learned about this particular short story.
As I close up on this discussion, and I want us to take this thing as something that we are going to take it home today.
Yes.
So that this story is teaching us a responsibility as a black community, as Africans as a whole, that we sit down with ourselves, we reveal, we do much more depth self-introspection about how going forward we can try to close up the gap by balancing the economical issues, social issues as well, to try to see how black Africans, they can work up together by being inclusive, create a self-belonging for everyone without excluding others or discriminating towards each other.
Well, thank you for that note, Mr. Mjobo. So, sadly, we have to close our podcast now, but we hope you enjoy. So, I'm the host of the podcast. I'm Linda Ntlangulela. This is Moeletsi Nkau. This is Myolisi Mjobo, and we're saying peace to you.
Thank you.